Let's keep it going. Special 90-minute edition of Paul Murray Live. Thanks for sticking with us to talk about the budget, the messages, the reality, and a whole lot of nothing that's there as well. Joe Hildebrand, of course, is from the Daily Telegraph, the ear of Albo, to tell us that it's the greatest thing ever. Michael Kroger, the man with his ear to the ground, about how this really works. Let's get to it. Okay, so headline thoughts, Michael, about what they've delivered here, about whether it moves the needle. Is there anything in it that legitimately is a great investment or changes people's minds about the government? What do you think of the budget?
Well, according to the Daily Telegraph poll, 10% think the budget was good or very good, and 75% think it was poor or very poor. That's the online poll at present. So
that's a pretty good result for the Daily Telegraph poll.
I think what it tells you is there's less likelihood of an election this year.
Okay.
I think that's very unlikely. Very unlikely.
Yep.
I mean, unless the Reserve Bank reduced rates at the September meeting, Labor can't go to the election without rates having come down. So that's not going to be till early next year, maybe November or December board meeting, if Treasury forecasts are right. But they need rates to drop before they say to the electorate, hey, we know what we're doing. The jury's out at the minute on this fellow Chalmers. Right? He looks good, sounds good. He's not very good, but they don't quite know that. If interest rates don't come down, they can't go to an election because they're going to think, hello, we're being conned.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, again, so that window of an election, I heard your agreement, so I won't waste time asking. But your sense of, does it match the times we're in? Because we know the anger that exists on cost of living.
Yes.
We know what limit government can play. Does it match those times?
Yeah, well, I think the budget's actually meant to do nothing, and that's exactly what it does.
Right.
And that's a good thing. I'll give you an exclusive here. We were thinking about going with Jim Chalmers as Jerry Seinfeld on the front page of the telly and calling it "It's all about nothing." And it kind of is, because he's caught in the ultimate economic catch-22. If he delivers relief for cost of living, which people are crying out for, that risks fueling inflation, which then makes things worse in the long term. And if you're an altruist, or if you're just trying to win an election in a year's time, that's a very, very, very bad thing. So they can't do that. They don't want to do that, and they're not going to do that. And so you've got people saying in the same breath, often the same people, it's too much spending, it's too inflationary, but it's not enough, it's not providing enough relief. So that, to me, as John Howard said, when both sides are criticising you, it shows you've probably got the balance about right. I think the budget is pretty much a holding pattern just to keep things as they are, and just to hope that all those settings that are already in place flow through. Michael is absolutely correct. There is no way on earth the government is going to go to an election before rates start coming down, or before inflation,
which is mid next year.
Before inflation gets to, that's right, to about that 3% or below. The other interesting thing, of course, is this discrepancy between the Treasury forecast for inflation and the RBA forecast for inflation. Now, an important thing here, people are saying, well, Treasury's just making it up, Treasury's heroic.
The
justification has been, well, the RBA doesn't know what's in the budget. Well, everyone knows now. But this means that Treasury thinks that, far from being inflationary, this budget is actually going to be counter-inflationary, that's actually going to bring inflation down more than if things were basically kept at the status quo. So I think that's an interesting thing as well. But it's like the Hippocratic Oath. First, do no harm. This is a budget that just, whatever it does not want to make things worse.
Yeah, but Michael, just the devil's advocate on all of this, right? Which is the do no harm principle, but also if you don't make anyone happy, if your standing has changed since the last time you asked for the job, then the number of directors that are going to sit around and vote for you falls. And this is a government that doesn't have that huge backbench to be able to go to an election in a diminished position. And it's going to be a relentless theme, because it's how I view the world, which is all these big numbers said on TV tonight and announced out of Canberra. But if the lived experience is $75 a quarter off your power bill and $39 a week as a tax cut, when your car insurance has gone up by a couple of $100, when your petrol goes up and can fluctuate by $50 depending on what the week is, but the government's saying, we're doing something, why would anyone believe them?
Mate, Gough Whitlam once said of the Fraser government, it's a government that can't arise above its origins, meaning it got into government, illicitly. Albo can't arise above the origins of his government, which were deeply rooted in those 1,000 or more quotes we've seen of Albo, of Chalmers, the whole Wong, the whole lot of them saying there's a cost of living crisis created by Scott Morrison, right? They kept using that phrase, cost of living crisis. I don't know, mate, I heard it 5 times a day, right? That was the talking point for months and months and months. What did that do? It created the expectation in the minds of the electorate, this Scott Morrison, he's terrible. He's created this incredible crisis that Albo will be able to solve because he's got a plan to solve it. Now, the electorate will not be taken for mugs, right? They'll always work you out, as our friend Richo says. What they've worked out is this, that Albanese never had a plan. This was bulldust. Yeah. This was politics. How are we going to undermine Morrison? The polling would have said, hey, people are a bit worried about cost of living, blame it all on Morrison. Create a sense of crisis. Use the word crisis. In every sentence, crisis has got to be attached to the word cost of living. OK, it was all Morrison's fault. Albo could flick the switch and ease it. Now, so the $275, for example, which will be run by the Liberal Party no doubt a million times during the election, this is his problem. He cannot rise above his origins. He conned people into thinking it was all Morrison's incompetence and he could fix this very easily. Hey, don't even worry about it. The $275, the check's in the mail. That is his main problem, mate. People think he's a liar. People think he's a bulldust artist. People think the promises he made during the election were written on toilet paper. Yep. There was no modelling. Where's the modelling for $275? On and on and on.